Okay, should I put the derby on now or should I wait till the end of the video? Okay, if you've seen the title of this video, you probably know what I'm about to do. And hopefully I have a title by the time I actually edit this, so reminder to self. Now, normally if I'm bored or not motivated to make a video, I just do stories, because a lot of the time I'm either exhausted from work or I'm just really lazy. So basically, someone actually did ask me how did I get into liking Chuck E. Cheese and all that stuff. And I do get that question a lot because people are kind of weirded out. Either I do like it, or people judge me for it, or people are interested about it. But I could not answer that just one question in a whole story page, because that would take up like 3 days worth of history about it. So I just asked if you guys just wanted the video, and I'm surprised how many people wanted it in a video particularly. I'm very shocked, to be honest, because I didn't think people would be that interested, and I'm sure people aren't interested in watching this now because some people probably clicked off by now, and you know, that's fine, because I'm kind of used to it at this point, so you know, what do I know? And of course, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to wear my absolute favorite Chuck E. Cheese shirt ever. But you know, because there's a lot of backstory that goes into it, because I don't think I've ever told this story. I don't think I would ever tell this story in my life. Because it is one of the most weirdest stories I've ever told. And I don't think anybody would actually want to listen to it. But you know, I am going to get into it though, so instead of me babbling on about my life. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm hoping I get this done within the next 4 hours, because that's when I work and I gotta get ready. So hopefully I can get this done in one take. So I've always struggled with communication. That's one of the main things in my life. Talking and communicating were hard. Adapting to certain environments. Blending in socially. I couldn't really talk till I was 7, so that was another hard thing. I wasn't shy, I actually struggled to communicate. Yeah, I didn't think I'd be telling this story. Oh my god. And you know, it was kind of hard to kind of find something that can actually make me feel like a normal kid. So of course there's television and screens, so I ended up growing up in front of computers and television screens and laptops, which I actually did actually. That was actually a fun time. So it was always home movies on the weekend, or just staying home a lot of the time. I didn't really have friends at that point. So basically, I remember this distinctly. I had an Acer monitor, and I had a desktop. I had like a whole table made for me, and I had a stand for my for my monitor. And I still remember this to this day. But the monitor is gone, unfortunately. I got rid of that a couple years ago because it stopped working. But yeah, I remember I was on my desktop and I ended up going on Internet Explorer at the time, when I was still around. That tells you how old I am. And I remember going on YouTube. You know, YouTube was still kind of new, relatively new. This is 2006, mind you. This is just when YouTube was starting to get out there, you know. There was a certain time limit you had to upload videos that you couldn't go over. There's also no copyrights you had to worry about. So you could make anything you wanted. And of course, quality was terrible back in the day. We didn't have HD yet. Of course, I remember this YouTuber starting out. It was the franchise 454. And, you know, he had a couple of light demos with Chuck E. Cheese stuff. He filmed Distorted Corpus Christi. And of course, I remember seeing this particular video called Chucky's Place, 2006.
Chucky, I just love it here. All the kids, the games, the fun.
The pizza!
Yeah, much. The pizza, too.
If you people enjoy yourselves as much as we do, then I think the world's gonna be a better place. Tell them, Pasquale!
And, you know, it was really cool. There was also Birthday 2002, which I remember seeing, which was also really cool to see. You know, and I actually ironically thought that it was actually my local store, because my store was also a Studio C beta. But of course, I didn't realize there was that many Chuck E. Cheeses at that point. This is me as a kid, and of course, you know, my mind, you know, moving on. I'm not gonna get into that. And then I started looking at more of his videos later on, and you know, I started seeing the slideshows, and I'm like, this is hitting me different, you know? It was really different. It separated me from reality for a little bit. I don't know why, but it just did. I was really intrigued. And so, and which actually leads to the next thing. I find another YouTuber called Pizza Cam. And my first show was actually content beautification, believe it or not. That was one of my first few shows I ever watched.
Either I got my tail in a light socket, or it's showtime!
Well, it's not showtime.
It's not?
It's mealtime. I'm wasting away here.
Munch, you ate 11 pizzas just an hour ago.
Yeah, and look at me now, just skin and bones.
Skin and bones?
Well, okay, I do have large bones.
So it was segment 3, because it was Simply Irresistible and then Footloose, which I remember watching it then. And then actually my first Rock-afire show was actually the Rolf and Earl show. The one they were getting into content beautification, where they played that show tape for 1 week. Oh my god, that was hilarious. Oh man. And you know, I started getting into it more. I started liking the shows, you know, the voices, I really got into it. You know, my first few Chucky shows were content beautification, of course. Summer Show of 91 and then Friends 91. I was really liking it. And of course I actually saved the videos to my computer, so you have to use the internet all the time. In which I didn't at that point. So I lost the majority of those files, which I had to re-download them. But I'm okay now, luckily. Everybody has these shows nowadays. So yeah, but another thing too is that I actually went to Chuck E. Cheese every summer, believe it or not. I never went for a birthday, just every summer. And basically I was with the daycare and a day camp. So we would go June or July, depending on planning and what they had in mind. It was different field trips every week, so Chuck E. Cheese was definitely going to be one of them. And so, I think the earliest show I remember watching was April 2008, and this is when they had screens all over the store. They had screens hanging down from Kid Check in the game room and stuff like that. And I remember I Like It Like That being played out of all songs. Yeah. If you know, you know. Anyway, so that's the earliest show I remember watching in person. And then basically 2009 hits after that. 2009 was an interesting year, but there was one year I remember, and I never thought I would tell this story on YouTube particularly, but we are going to get into it because it's actually one of the few moments this is one of the few stories I do actually have with my mom that I'm actually going to tell on here. So I remember it was 2009, it was my birthday, and you know, I actually never saw Chucky in person before in my life at that point. Like, he never came out when I was there during the summer, so that was something. And I remember this is when Birthday Star 2009 was coming out. This was just starting out. It was either 2009 or 10, I don't remember clearly. It was around that time because I remember seeing that show being played because the candles and everything. And of course the Studio C was actually in really good condition too. But yeah, I remember that show being played, and we were at a particular side of the game room. I was in Kitty section. I was on that last table on the left, so it was K2. It was because it was near the Sky Tubes. So my mom had her Mac with her. Yeah, I remember that because she said she was working, but really she was on Facebook, which kind of did go for her. Which kind of did go for work for her in a way. So basically, I remember that show being played, and you know, everybody had their birthday party in the party rows in the showroom, and you know, I just kind of remember just kind of being sad because I could never really have that magic moment. I never got a medallion or a birthday crown, you know, because we couldn't afford it because it was so expensive back in the day. It still kind of is now, but yeah, I just remember just being sad because I kind of knew I would never have that magic moment in my life, and I never did. And yeah, so I hardly ever went back, looked back even. I still like Chuck E. Cheese, because we still went there every summer. And you know, the last summer that I went there properly with my camp, with my crew, well, I call them crew, I don't know why, it was actually 2012. And it was the last year of Avenger, ironically. And And I remember Party Rock being played, so I remember that. It is actually one of the last few moments I had with my best friend at the time. And I don't talk to her anymore, unfortunately. I doubt she even cares of who I am anymore, which is fine, you know. I doubt she's even gonna see this anyway. But you know, it's one of the last few good memories I had with her, and I cherish them for the rest of my life. And yeah. And then we fast forward a little bit. I kind of stopped getting into it around 2013, 2012, around that time. But I still liked it. But you know, I was always judged for it. People kind of judged me for it. They judged me for a lot of things because people hated me at that point. So I was always picked on in school. I really didn't have a lot of friends at that point. Yeah, my childhood sucked. Yeah, people always kind of picked on me a lot. So, not just for Chuck E. Cheese, but for other reasons. Because I was that weird kind of kid that was kind of different from everyone else. But fast forward a little bit, so we're not making this a sob story. 2014, I started getting back into it more, 2013. This was actually when Rock-afire was actually just starting to take over. Because I remember seeing a commercial on television and I'm like, what the hell is this? That's not Chuck. They changed him completely. But yeah, there was something. And I got back into it. So I started looking for more shows, and then Matt the Franchise comes up again. You know, I see the light shows, I'm like, holy crap, I remember this. I remember this. And then I see what he's doing now, I'm like, wow, he really has gotten far. He's still doing it. Like, wow. You know, I've been watching for years, you know. And I still was, technically, too. Because I was still kind of into it, but I was kind of on and off. And basically, I found out about the fandom. I mean, I sort of knew about it through Cheesevention, but it got bigger at that point, so more and more people were joining that fan base. And I remember distinctly, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed about this particular one. We had a group chat, and I was so embarrassed. People were actually inviting me on it, and I'm like, oh man, I was so embarrassed. I was such an asshole back in the day, and people agreed I was an asshole, and I still am to this day. If you were there, you remember. Oh my god, I was probably a douchebag back in the day. Because I was in it, but I wasn't really in it yet. Because I was still learning about, you know, the Rock-afire and of course Chuck E. Cheese. Because I liked it, but I didn't know much apart from the shows. So, basically I remember Matt being on, and oh my god, I embarrassed myself in front of Matt the Franchise, and I cringed. I still cringe to this day. I mean, I laugh about it now, but oh god, man, like, it was crazy, you know, and I'm actually still glad they accepted me to this day, because, oh my god, I was an asshole. But, you know, I actually made good friends, you know, I wasn't really used to it, having people around that actually like the same things I like. So it's a whole new world, you know. You don't know what's gonna happen. And so time progresses, I make good friends, I start chatting with more people online. You know, this is when my original Instagram page was starting to do pretty good. So, you know, people liked me for my light shows, which people don't realize. I used to get hate on for that crap. And, you know, it was cringy at the time, so I understand why. I didn't really get the proper lighting equipment until I was maybe 16 or 15. I don't remember clearly, because it's a blur now. But this is with the original design. My camera quality was crap, and this is when the channel was called The Comedy Bros, mind you. It's nothing like it is now. Like, I'm thankful for all the stuff that happened to get me to this point, but you know, it's still cringe in my book, which I had to private some of the videos due to the fact I don't want them taken down. You know, I was an amateur back in the day, so I was just starting out. Originally, the channel was supposed to be just for comedy. I didn't really intend it to be just for light shows, you know, CEC or Rock-afire content, but people liked it. Some people did, some people didn't. People still judge me for it. They kind of question me for it. They still kind of do to this day, but I'm kind of used to it at this point. Fast forward a little bit. So I changed the setup in 2015. I changed it to look like a Studio C beta, which it did, but it didn't. I still had the same kind of lights. I still had my Rotobeam 4, which was a pain to use, actually. So people were actually impressed I actually managed to find a helicopter light. And of course, I liked the new design, but I felt like there was something missing from it. And of course, I keep going and going. And more and more people actually started finding my Instagram page. And there's more people in the fandom. There's more and more and more. And this was when everything was actually nice. We hit the 40th. I actually didn't participate in this because I didn't go to the Chuck E. Cheese locations at that time. 2018, I just got through a tough in 2017 because at that point I have been through so much. There was actually a point to where people were actually concerned because I took a break off Instagram. Personal thing, but I'm not going to get into what happened. That'll be another video. But yeah, people were actually concerned because I was actually off Instagram for like 2 weeks. No one heard from me at all. People were reaching out. I was dealing with a really, really tough time, and I'm glad people were actually stuck around. And then 2018, things started getting a little better, but there was a high school trip I really did not want to go to, so I'm like, maybe I could go to Dallas for a little bit, you know? That would be fun. And I did. And I messaged Matt, he'd be like, hey, I'm thinking about going to Dallas for a little bit. I was wondering if you wanted to meet up. And it succeeded. You know, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you. But it was a lot of fun. I got to see my first 2 stage, which was White Settlement. Oh god, that store was amazing. And that was actually the only other store I ever traveled to in my life. So that was the second store I ever got to visit. And you know, we made a couple videos together, which was really fun. I got to try my first ever slice of Chuck E. Cheese pizza because I couldn't have it back in the day because we never had the gluten-free option till now. And the menu changed a lot. And you know, I explained it in that other video. If you guys want to check it out, I'll put it on the end card. I spent the 2 days there, which were really awesome. I also got to do some Chuck E. Con stuff, which you guys got to see as well. And then, fast forward a couple months later, I actually visited my store. I actually had some free time on my hands. My mom was actually getting gas. She gave me some money to Chuck E. Cheese for a little bit. I'm over 18. I didn't have an ID at that point, but I didn't need to be stamped. And I actually wanted to try out the Play Pass card again, buy some food, have some fun. I actually almost got kicked out of my own store, if you want to believe me or not, because I didn't have an adult with me. But I told them I would make some I wanted to make some purchases, just enjoy, have a good experience, and they allowed it, luckily. And this is when, you know, we had like 7 different shows that year. I don't remember because Studio C had a bunch of them at that point. But I remember distinctly just when I was finishing up, the main manager, who is my boss now. I hope you're not seeing this. He actually calls me over. And I'm like, oh my god, he's probably had enough of me. He's probably going to kick me out. He probably had enough of me, you know, because he saw me looking at the show and stuff, you know. At that point, the show was actually doing not that great because the lights were going with the Chuck's movements at that point. I was kind of questioning it. And of course, I sat in the showroom. They also got mad about that, but I'm going to gloss over that. But he calls me over. He's sitting on G2, and I remember this to this day. He was sitting on G2. It's near the door, and it's near the salad bar. It was like a really long table. He had his laptop. He was working on like schedules or something like that. But he calls me over, and I'm like I said, I'm thinking he's probably had enough of me. He just, you know, we do what we normally do. Just ask people if they're having a good time, which he did. I actually enjoy myself. I'm actually still trying to get used to the Play Pass system. I was asking questions about the show and stuff, and he saw that I knew what I was on about a little bit. And he saw I was trying to figure out how the games work, because Alley Roller's solenoid was actually really powerful at that point, and they had like 5 balls in each lane, which I'm not going to get into that, why we do that, but you get the gist. He actually offered me a job, and that was also by accident too, because I never intended to work for Chuck E. Cheese, because I didn't think anybody would hire me at that point, because how stupid I was, and I went in the next day. I got hired on the spot. They knew what they wanted me for. And I've been there for 4 years ever since. I've been through a lot with this company. I was terrible to begin with. I wasn't the best person to start back in the day. You know, it took me a couple years. It took me at least 2 years, and then I graduated. Then I started doing full time. I started doing better. They offered me something a little bit more challenging, which actually was a benefit. And then I started doing more PMs and stuff. I started being there a little bit more often. I started knowing a little bit more knowledge. They trained me a little bit more. And then the pandemic happened. I went through that with them. It was actually, ironically, a couple days after my birthday, believe it or not. Yeah, I went through the pandemic with Chuck E. Cheese. On and off the clock, believe it or not. I was there for most of it. So I went through March, not working at all, working on ShowBiz videos, ironically, and then I suddenly started working through April and May. I started getting more hours, and then hours started to drop. I was either making Parmesan or red pepper cups. I was making those, putting them by the salad bar, or I was helping them in the kitchen, which was a rare occasion. I really didn't do much. Or I was actually trying to clean games, just trying to stay busy, because they weren't being cleaned at that point, because nobody was working on them. Or I was assisting Chucky, which a lot of people were at that time, and then we stopped doing it because we were told not to do that anymore for certain reasons. And then I just stopped working for a little while. And then I did the ChuckyCon virtual event, so I traveled to Dallas during that time, and then we got to make an incredible video, which you guys got to see. Stupid truck! You ruined a touching moment! Then, fast forward, about a month later, I traveled to Dallas to do the ChuckyCon virtual event, which I got to make an incredible video, which actually did pretty well. I'm very surprised how well that turned out. I was really proud of that one, because that was my first time doing things widescreen, and actually, we made the Cyberstar countdown widescreen for the first time, which I actually really liked. It actually worked really well, so that was restored, and then I recreated the original graphics, the constant vivification, which was awesome, and then I got to wake up Chucky for that one, which was totally fun, which has been a dream for a long time. But yeah, I've developed a lot of fun memories along the way, a lot of tough ones, but you know, I've been through a lot with Chuck E. Cheese. I didn't think I'd be working for them. I never thought I'd be so into it to this day. I'm very surprised how much it's got me through. And even back in the day, that's how I managed to start doing impressions. Like back in 2008, I remember starting to learn Scott Wilson's voice a little bit. Somewhat of Avenger, and then people actually started liking my impressions too. And that's how I really came to be. Chuck E. Cheese and Rock-afire even. That kind of stuff actually gave me a voice, and you know, even learning from Matt or anybody who I've talked to over the years who are still with me to this day, I really appreciate them because they actually gave me a chance when no one else wouldn't. So Chuck E. Cheese, it's alright. It's alright right now. Even though a lot of them are getting 2.0, a lot of our stages are being taken out. CEC is not even being programmed anymore, which is a shame. But you know, I'm really thankful for the memories that were able to come along with me for this journey. And you know, I'll never forget it. Another thing too is I mentioned this in a story one time. I remember my old Instagram page, why I like assisting Chucky so much. And you know, like I said before, it gives people the magic moment I know I will never have. I've assisted all 3 versions of Chuck, which not a lot of people can really say, to be honest. It's really heartwarming to know that I'm trusted to do this type of thing. And that I've met a lot of cool people along the way. I've worked in 2 other stores. I've traveled to a whole bunch of them too, like Dallas. I've been to Texas stores, I've been to Kentucky store, I've been to a lot of Tennessee stores, Mississippi store, Florida stores, California even. California, that is crazy though too. You know, I've met a lot of people over the years. I try to learn certain stuff from how certain stores do their stuff. You know, I try to take that along with me, kind of expand my knowledge a little bit. But you know, I'm thankful for all the people I've met along the way, either in the fandom or in the company, or just who really, really like Chuck E. Cheese. Even the families I've met over the years, I'm really thankful for them. Some of them might be watching, because I know a few of them who follow me. But you know, I'm really thankful for everything that's happened to me. Because I mean, without everything that's happened in my life, I don't think I would have ever had a voice, really. But yeah, I'm hoping this story doesn't go on for too long. Looking back, probably at the time. But yeah. Okay, so I just looked back at my footage. The camera cut off at the perfect time. I'm glad it didn't cut off any of my story. I just looked back on the actual camera itself. It cut off in like 30 minutes. I'm like, holy shit. Oh man. But anyways, I really did not want this video to go that long, but apparently it did. But yeah, that's really how I got into it. It's a really long story, like I said. I apologize for it being this long. But yeah, I think just because of what I've been through, you know, how many people have left my life, I think Chuck E. Cheese is probably one of the only few things that have actually stayed a part of my life. But you know, I'm just kind of glad the memories will be able to live on through online and memories and photos, you know, all those kind of things. Even video. And this channel was not really meant to be a CEC channel or a Rock-afire channel, which it ended up being an accident, like I said. It ended up being an accident, like I said, like everything else was. But you know, it's, looking back, it's kind of crazy to even kind of think about of how everything kind of went, how everything kind of got played. But yeah, it's really awesome to see what has happened and what's changed, you know, and everything I've kind of went through with CEC. And, you know, some dreams do come true. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys like this story, and but more fun videos soon. I'm not going to do any more of this emotional crap right here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. So make sure you click that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you guys don't miss out on a brand new video. And until then, I'll see you all in the next one. Talk to you then.